Hello and welcome to Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast.
Today's guest is Marc Lopata, who is a professional engineer, or else maybe he's into physical education. Which one is it, Marc? You're a PE? You probably like both. Yeah. I could just tell by talking to you.
Well, it's funny. Sometimes these days I'm mostly involved in the sales process.
Uh-huh.
But I'd say the PE sometimes stands for pretend engineer.
Pretend engineer. Okay, that's... All right. And so Marc is a global person. Marc's in the Bahamas right now. Is that correct?
I am.
Yeah. So there's a lot of palm trees in the background and sailboats. And it's not just some kind of fake, Zoom background call type of thing. Yeah.
Right.
It's a real background, or is it? I don't know.
It is.
Some people just say we're all in a simulation anyway. So
that's right. Yeah.
And life is what you make of it. So I encourage everybody to just visualize palm trees. And really, I'm in a redwood forest myself, so I'm out here building a solar training center, and I've spent over a year now dealing with, different trades, contractors, and sometimes rebuilding something 3 times. It's really exciting.
Well, where?
It's a little town called Canyon, California. It's where I grew up. It's where my family came in the 1850s and 60s.
Oh, my gosh.
4 different... I guess it would be great-great-grandparents came out here, and they ended up being my grandpa's grandparents. And they were sailors. They came in the 1850s. Well, there's a guy on a whaling ship who jumped shore in Ensenada, swam to shore, and then walked up here to Canyon, California, and started homesteading. Later, sent home back to the Azores for a wife, and got a wife that he never met before. It was sort of like... it's like online dating. I guess he swiped right really hard on that one. And then the other sailors, they were from Ireland, and they're tired of scrounging for potatoes, and they came over in the 1860s, and they paid for their boat, and they went around tip of South America and all that stuff, Straits of Magellan. So there's some sailing
big adventures.
Yeah, some sailing history. And so Marc is, besides being a professional engineer, and he's a sailor. And what was that, an island packet?
An island packet.
52 foot. Is that one with a full keel, right?
It is a full keel. And it's super heavy. This boat weighs almost 20 tons.
Do you live in it?
I do.
All right. Yeah, that's cool. I'm kind of jealous.
It's such a heavy boat that people call them island pachyderms.
Uh-huh. You know what? I think now I remember, so I have a Ranger 33 with Bill Brooks over at Pier 39 in the marina in San Francisco. And I remember we were thinking of upgrading, and I was looking at different sailboats, and I thought, an island packet seems really cool. Like it just crashed through the waves, no problem and stuff.
It's super comfortable.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It doesn't heel very much. I mean, as far as I know.
Yeah, except for when those hurricanes come through.
Right.
All right. I guess you have some of those in the Bahamas. So, your solar energy career goes back 20 years?
That's right, yeah.
So what's been happening in the last 2 decades in your neck of the woods?
Wow. I mean, when I started, we were building a lot of commercial and utility projects. The smallest thing we would build was like 25 kW, and then got up in the megawatt range.
And where were you doing that mostly?
In St. Louis, Missouri.
Missouri. That's part of the Bahamas, right?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
There's a wormhole that connects those places, especially in the winter.
If you're on a different planet, it's the same. But we always had a very focused engineering perspective, obviously, because I'm an engineer. And we grew the market really quickly and ended up working for a lot of utility companies. And in about 2010, I realized that I wanted to diversify the risk of the company. So I started marketing work in the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
Because down here, electricity is 40 cents a kilowatt hour on a good day.
The higher the better. If you're selling electricity, the higher the better. Yeah.
So there are no taxes, but I wanted to work somewhere where the market wasn't dependent on tax credits, just to balance out the risk of the company.
So there's no taxes in the Bahamas? It's like no. So that's probably a good place for when I turn into a billionaire to go hide from the tax man.
Yeah, and then you can hire me to build a microgrid on your private island.
Okay, deal done. Yeah.
But I just started working down in the Caribbean, and I've never been very good at marketing, so it was very slow growth. And now I sold my company in St. Louis, Missouri, and now I only work in the Caribbean. A little bit in the United States, but mostly here.
All right, cool. So what's it like doing solar in the Bahamas out there on an island? Is there net metering? Is it like, are you offsetting diesel or anything like that?
We are offsetting diesel, and that's the situation anywhere in the Caribbean or most, remote places in the world.
Mhm.
You're offsetting diesel electricity, and diesel electricity is, 30 to 50 to 70 cents a kilowatt hour to make it.
Mm-hmm.
So most of my clients now are either privately owned islands and they're off grid.
You have some good friends.
They're an interesting bunch of clients.
Do you have special clients that are famous that we would all hear of, or probably you can't say their name?
Yeah. And just a lot of rich folk.
And like some of them are famous
Yeah.
that I would know of? Okay. We'll have to torture you to find out.
I don't want anybody calling me, accusing me of violating an NDA.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But
I understand. Yep.
But also here, I'm in a place called...
It's no Epstein's, right? Though we have to get that out of the way or this podcast is over. Yeah.
You won't find my name on that list. Here in Spanish Wells, I work for the utility company.
Uh-huh.
We are building a solar farm, and we'll hit a 30% solar offset probably in 2 years.
Wow. Uh-huh.
I've been working for them here for, since like 2019, and I do all of their compliance work, all of their government regulatory stuff, and it's interesting.
So that's 30% of the energy from the whole utility and the
It'll be
offset.
solar.
And is that all due to like many different projects that different people install, or all things that you installed with your pickup truck?
Well, it'll be mostly a couple of solar farms.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
In the megawatt scale.
Uh-huh.
But so we have an interesting program, and I call it Solar Community.
Mm-hmm.
And we are leasing roofs from people that have commercial buildings here, and we're building solar on their roof. We're paying them a lease fee for the roof that more than offsets their utility bill. And then we're using all of this solar to directly reduce the cost of energy for consumers.
That sounds like a good idea. Was that your idea?
It was.
Okay. Because then people wouldn't have to worry about, say, change of ownership of the building and all that kind of stuff, I would think.
Yeah, and we hope that when we get to our 30% target, the solar and the grid batteries that we have to put in will end up reducing the cost of electricity by about 15%.
Uh-huh. Wow.
Which here is about 6 cents a kilowatt hour.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Great. And so say that again, the 6 cents a kilowatt hour that's not the price of the kilowatt hour.
No, they're selling electricity for about 40 cents here.
They're selling it for 40, so they're reducing it by 6? Is that what?
We'll reduce it by about 6.
Okay, so then they're paying, instead of 40, down to like 34.
34.
Uh-huh.
And we just submitted a rate case to the government to restructure the company as a co-op.
Mm-hmm.
So we will basically keep a certain amount of cash reserve on hand. And at the end of each fiscal year, any cash we have remaining, we'll use it to directly reduce the cost of energy to consumers.
And do consumers also own their own solar? It's just a different way of doing it?
There are a bunch of customer-owned systems here, a lot of them. And it's a challenge to deal with that. But they are customer-owned solars offsetting about 10% of the demand right now.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So customer solar also is causing the cost of electricity to go up for everybody else.
Okay. We probably don't want to talk about that. No.
It's a fact of life. They have a fixed overhead here.
Uh-huh.
And it's a small utility company. They have about 1,500 customers.
1,500 customers. So that's on like one island of the Bahamas.
It's on 3 little islands.
Oh, 3 islands in the Bahamas, 1,500. That's not very big.
We're the smallest utility company in the Bahamas.
Wow.
And the customer solar is offsetting about 10% of our demand, but we're selling around 12 million kilowatt hours a year.
Mm-hmm.
And we're losing 10% of that with the same fixed overhead.
Mm-hmm.
So that ends up making the cost of energy go up for everybody that can't afford their own system.
Okay. Huh.
And there's people living here. You go around here in the summertime when it's 90 degrees, and there are people that have their windows open because they can't afford to run their air conditioner.
Mm-hmm.
So energy is a huge problem here.
Yeah, 90 degrees, and it's probably humid too, so
Very humid.
that would not be fun.
Yeah. So it's a very difficult energy situation here. Really difficult balance.
Mm-hmm. So what did you say? It was like 15,000 customers?
No, 1,500 customers.
1,500.
Yeah. And we sell around 12 or 13 million hours a year.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so is there net metering where people get full credit for exporting?
No.
Yeah, that I would think that there's probably a lot of homes there that aren't occupied most of the year, like vacation homes.
That's right. Yeah.
And so then that just kind of wouldn't really work if they just put solar on their house and were exporting all year long and show up once a year or something like that.
Yeah, then they would be independent power producers, and there's a whole different set of government regulations that apply to that.
So, like, it's a small country. What's the population of the Bahamas?
I'm going to guess a couple of million.
Okay. Do you know the president?
I do.
You do? Okay.
Prime Minister.
Oh, the prime minister. Okay. So I remember
the previous one also. This one came to one of our ribbon cuttings.
Oh, that's cool.
During COVID.
Yeah, I remember doing a class in a very small country in the Seychelles, and somebody was saying like, "Oh, I can't install it that way," or somebody will tell the president. So it's like it's such a small country that the president gets involved with, you know, somebody's electric meter.
Right. Yeah, they do. Here, same thing.
Yeah, I think
it's interesting. When I first started working here, I thought it was so refreshing that you would go on a local radio station on Friday night, and there'd be a call-in show, and the prime minister would be on the call-in show, and people would just call up to talk to the prime minister.
That's a good idea. I think we should do more of that.
You know? Yeah, great idea. That would work really well in the United States for about 5 seconds.
Yeah, I used to live in a small town in Alaska, and it's called Haines, Alaska.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Oh, cool. Yeah, you could take your sailboat there right now. I dare you. And so there's a little radio station, KHNS, and I was like one of the DJs. It just like volunteer DJs and stuff. And sometimes I'd be there at midnight and it's snowing, going like, I wonder if anybody's listening. and spinning some vinyl. It was like they still do vinyl, and
that's so cool.
Yeah, and they had this thing that I guess they can only do in Alaska. Like they let them do it. It's called listener personals, and you can leave an announcement for your friend. And so you would see some people going like, "Hey Joe, Mary's going to be coming down the river in 2 or 3 days, so keep your eyes open. She's bringing like some extra butter," or like stuff like that. or like, "Whoever saw the chicken going across Small Tracks Road, that's my chicken. Give it back."
Yeah. I have a niece that lived in Haines back in the 90s, and she used to tell stories about it.
Okay, so yeah, my brother, he lives there, and he was there in the 90s, and he's still there. So they good chance they might know each other. He's a wildlife biologist. That's where I got some of my first solar experience. Was these little battery systems out there in a place called Mud Bay. So yeah. And so I go out there once in a while again and, see these lead acid batteries that are going strong for 20 years and stuff like that. It's kind of neat.
Yeah. Flooded cells last a long time.
Yeah, when you take care of them. And I think they like classical music or jazz maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I worked in the data center world for 8 years. Engineering and building data centers for a major telecom. And we bought lots of lead acid batteries.
What years was that?
98 to 06.
Wow, I bet it's a little bit different now, huh?
A little bit, yeah.
Do you keep an eye on that?
Yeah, I still consult a little bit to some people I know that are building in data centers. But it was a different world. I worked for a company that got bought by WorldCom, then WorldCom bought MCI, and then it was MCI WorldCom, then it went bankrupt, and then it was Verizon. So it was a huge company.
I have a question for some data center consulting. I've always wondered if you could set up a data center like you set up distributed generation PV systems. So instead of having like one big giant data center, you just have a little bit at each house, or like have it scattered in different places. Would that work?
That sounds like a little bit like Bitcoin mining.
Yeah.
When people buy Bitcoin miners and keep them in their house.
Yeah. And I think there is some kind of cryptocurrency that is sort of like stores data or something like that. I don't know if it's like it has like dual use or something like that. But yeah, I guess it would be sort of like Bitcoin mining, because I've always thought too, where you have distributed energy, like with solar and storage and things, and you'd have to find a way, like an extra load that you can use. Like maybe every inverter out there could have an NVIDIA chip in it. And then when the sun's shining and the battery's full and you're not home, it could, do a little work on the side. And maybe that would even be the car, because now the cars have these fancy computer chips in them because they're doing self-driving and all that stuff. And you go home, you plug in your car, and that fancy, like billion-dollar computer chip that's in your car could be supporting the, AI. Yeah.
Yeah. I know some people that tell me that they use the Bitcoin miners to keep their homes warm in the winter.
I'm sure in the Bahamas, yeah. But yeah, they do. They have Bitcoin heaters and stuff like that. So yeah, so all that sounds pretty interesting. And I noticed too that you're merchant marine, I guess, in the Coast Guard.
Yeah, long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I still exercise that, but previous life.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think I mostly know you from the NABCEP conferences.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And so how long have you been going to the NABCEP conferences and been involved with NABCEP, which is the North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners?
Probably 15 years, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm the co-chair of the education committee.
Oh, the co-chair of the education committee.
Yeah.
Great.
So we put together all of the independent educational sessions by for
the NABCEP, for the conference, for the annual conference, which is going to be in March
Mobile, Alabama.
Next year in Mobile, Alabama. Okay.
Better choice than Milwaukee in a blizzard.
Yeah, I know. I think we should just come to where you live in the Bahamas, and
it'll be sweet. Although they could accommodate 900 people on the island.
That'll work.
Every Airbnb and on the whole.
We'll just all stay on your 52-foot sailboat. So that's pretty cool. So you're on the NABCEP Education Committee.
Yeah.
And so how long have you been doing that for?
Maybe 3 years.
And so if somebody wants to, do some teaching at the NABCEP conference, do they talk to you? Or is that?
Well, they could. I mean, there are a bunch of people they could talk to, but really we're looking for, on these sessions, we try to really focus on the topics that people tell us they want to know more about.
Mm-hmm.
So we're sort of trying to focus on more non-residential stuff because, NABCEP has been focused on residential forever.
Yeah.
With less content for commercial utility projects.
So that's kind of a shift with NABCEP. They're trying to pivot in that direction. But
we've been having some classes on other things and sort of trying to adapt to the changing marketplace.
Great. Well, glad to see that happen. And a lot of exciting stuff going on with NABCEP. And then also, I guess you are a contributor for Solar Builder magazine.
Oh, yeah. I have a long article about microgrids.
Microgrids.
Yeah, that's sort of the other side of my business is we build microgrids on privately owned islands.
Great.
So these are all diesel powered, and we typically will aim for 90% diesel offset, which is the sweet spot for lowering the cost of energy.
So what is it? So explain that 90% diesel offset, like to reduce the diesel by 90%. So there's still going to be some diesel, but then you're going to add some PV, some batteries, and maybe something else.
Yeah. So let's say an island uses 10 million kilowatt hours a year. We'll build a microgrid where the solar makes 9 million.
Okay, great.
And the challenge going over that number, that's sort of the sweet spot these days. When you start to go over that number, you end up overbuilding the system.
Sure.
So if you can picture, if you're in Phoenix, and let's say it was sunny in Phoenix every day and your load was always the same, it would be pretty cost effective to build a microgrid to offset 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say even Phoenix, it's cloudy for a day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you want to make all of that energy with solar, you now have to make the system twice as big.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or if it's cloudy for 2 days in a row, you have to make it 3 times.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we use software to model and optimize system size for the weather and the location, load profile, and it usually ends up around a 90% offset.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. I know that the microgrids, a lot of people wonder what they are, and I think the National Electrical Code doesn't really have a definition that fits with what everybody calls a microgrid. So National Electrical Code definition of microgrid is going to be like pretty much like solar and batteries that also connects to and disconnects from a grid. So if you're on an island, I think you would say that it's not a microgrid according to the NEC, but it would be according to like IEEE or something like that. There's just different definitions all over the place.
I guess you'd call it off-grid.
Yeah, but like a standalone system or something. But everybody knows what you're talking about. It's sort of like when people say hybrid inverter, it's not a NEC term, or even microinverter is not an NEC term. So, yeah.
Right. I guess I would define it as any electrical system that has more than one generation storage and also has energy storage capability.
Great. Okay, cool. So how much is an island? Like just asking for a friend.
Well, it really depends on how nice the island is.
Uh-huh.
Like you could go out and buy yourself an island that has a maximum height above sea level of 2 or 3 feet.
Uh-huh.
And is small, and you could get it for a pretty good price.
Uh-huh.
But if you want one that has, is 20 or 30 feet above sea level, it's going to weather a hurricane for a century and has more size and has natural beaches, then they're going to be more expensive.
Okay. I think I'll take one that can handle the hurricane. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've worked for Disney
Uh-huh.
and a couple of other cruise lines, building their private islands.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, just other rich folk.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting because I worked in green building for a long time.
Uh-huh.
And what I've found is that you really need the people that can afford to deploy this technology and accept the risk to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Disney builds this and people say, oh, if it's good enough for Disney, it's good enough for me. And, they can afford it if there's a problem. They can afford to, be the Pony Express on the leading edge of the technology. So I've found that a lot of times it's the people that have big budgets that are willing to take chances on technology.
Yeah. And I would think if Disney was buying an island, they would try to make one that has like 3 circles, so it looks sort of like Mickey Mouse.
They did that in Orlando with a system they built in Orlando. Yeah.
Yeah, do you Mickey Mouse your systems together for them?
Ideally not.
Uh-huh. That's pretty neat. So there must be like a lot of islands out there for like if you could just go buy an island. I think like Mr. Beast bought an island or something. Was that out there? Or some YouTuber or something and gave it away or something like that?
I mean, there are celebrities that own islands, like movie celebrities.
Uh-huh.
A lot of investors that have a ton of money
to go offshore it. Yep.
Yeah, or people invent something and make a huge, windfall when they sell it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an investment. It takes a lot of money to keep up a private island.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. Good. Well, it sounds like your life is set out there.
Well, I'm able to pay the dockage bills for now.
Uh-huh.
And we'll see what happens. Always looking at new things, looking what's on the horizon.
Okay, great.
Interested in solar on boats.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I know that there's a lot of neat things that you could do with solar on a sailboat, or like maybe even we'll call it like an off-grid microgrid on a sailboat. So you have wind, a lot of people put little wind turbines up there. And you could, of course, solar. And I think solar is put out of business, a lot of the wind turbines people used to put on sailboats. And then you have a propeller that when you're sailing along with the engine off can go backwards and charge a battery. So
yeah, I've read stuff about that, and I never really have thought about whether that makes sense or not. But I've heard, sure.
Yeah,
I've got about 1.5 kW of solar on this boat, and 12 kWh back.
Yeah, I think that like people will do it with an electric sailboat. It could just be like, an electric motor in reverse charges a battery. And so as they're sailing along, the propeller's spinning backwards and it's charging the battery, and then they get to the dock and they need to turn the motor on so they don't crash into the dock, and then they make it spin the other way. So I always thought that was kind of neat. And that was just like when you're out there deciding to buy a sailboat, you're always thinking of all these dreams of sailing around the world and stuff. And then once you can afford a sailboat, you're working so hard you don't have time to go sail around the world. I think that's how it goes.
I think that most people, including me, that decide to buy a sailboat should think harder.
Oh, your sailboat is pretty nice there. Yeah,
it's comfy. It's a nice on-site housing.
Yeah, I've lived on boats before too. So yeah.
And then come next month, I'll start doing my annual hurricane season preventative maintenance on a bunch of jobs here in the Bahamas. Where we go down and do all the annual preventative maintenance on the systems, and also do a hurricane season checkup by checking the torque on the hardware on the racking, checking the torque on the mount hardware, and other, make sure that they're ready for her.
Okay, that's interesting. So in places where there's hurricanes, is that typical maintenance that's done is just like annual checks, torquing and all that kind of stuff?
It's typical for us, but it's not typical.
Have you had any hurricanes come through there recently where it like tore up some systems?
We have. I mean, in 2017, there was hurricanes that Maria, and I can't remember the other one, Irma and Maria.
Just make up the name and nobody will know the difference.
Yeah, the Northern Caribbean systems down there that survived, and there was an organization called the Rocky Mountain Institute that ended up putting together a design guide, hurricane survivability. And we were co-authors on that with a couple of other notable structures in the industry. And then after that, I did a lot of hurricane consulting to NREL, Energy Lab, to Aon Insurance about how they should, look at surviving a hurricane from the perspective of insurance that people carry for it.
Great.
So
Interesting.
It's being sort of a technical focus for me.
So if somebody was going to have taken, say the NABCEP PV commissioning maintenance specialist certification exam, and maybe there'd be a question on there about doing that maintenance or, preparation for hurricane season, what would be a good test question with A, B, C, and D answers?
A good question would be, if you want to check the hardware on the racking system and module mounting, how many bolts do you have to check?
Okay. And what's the answer?
Well, we use an ISO standard to define a typical data set. Like, for instance, we have a job where there's about 140,000 bolt sets, and we don't want to check them all, but we go through and check, let's say, 500 of them. And if you don't have more than 15 that fail the torque test, and the standard says that that's a pass.
Okay. So what is the standard?
It's ISO 2859.
ISO, International Standards Organization
2859.
And what is that called? Is there a name for it?
It's a method to determine a statistically valid sample set from a large data set.
Okay, so I'm in the middle of making NABCEP PV commissioning and maintenance specialist certification practice exam questions. So I'll make sure to put that in there. And it is kind of a little different when it's a maintenance test question, because it's not really like an NEC thing, and you do need to have something like this. Like one of the questions that I was just working on was when do you change the zip ties if they are if they're supposed to last 7 to 9 years? And I think we said year 7. You don't want to do 6 because too early. So at the beginning of when they would start to fail. So, and maybe
But how do you know how long they're going to last?
if they're,
How do you know how long they're supposed to last?
I guess from the manufacturer.
Oh, I've never seen that headline. I mean, I would just say we're going to replace the zip tie when we find it broken.
Yeah, that's probably a better answer. Okay.
We check it every year. At some point, you're going to go out and you just make sure that your guys that are doing the inspections have, a whole sack of zip ties.
Okay.
And they just, wherever they find that's broken.
Yeah.
Okay. But what that question could be, what do you use to define how many bolts are you going to check on an array and mounting hardware? Now, I'm going to use ISO 2859, or I'm going to use UL 2703, or I'm going to tighten them all, or I'm not tighten any of them. I'm just going to ignore it.
And so for that answer being 500 bolts, is that for like no matter how big the system is?
No, it depends on how big the sample set is.
So is it a certain percentage or?
It is. I mean, it is a percentage, but not a straight line calculation. So for 500, sample set might be anywhere from 50,000 to 150,000.
Okay. So if they're between 50,000 and 150,000, it would be like 500. And then if it was greater than 150,000 bolts, then it would be a number that's higher. And maybe they have something like a table that tells you, how many bolts.
They have tables of sample numbers per set, and also that changes based on the risk of having a failure. So if you have an instance where you can't have any failures, like let's say you're bolting the heat shield onto a spacecraft, well, you're going to check every bolt. You can't afford to have one failure.
Yeah, I was just doing that the other day for Artemis.
Did you get that done right?
Yeah, I think I got a little bit in trouble with the space agency because one of them was over torqued.
Yeah. Did they dock you pay for that one?
They space docked me, yeah. I was grounded on the space station. Yep, they're not letting me go land on the moon next time either. So
no. Could I write a letter of recommendation for you? Tell them that you'll be more diligent on the bolts next time.
Yeah, tell them that I know the right ISO standard. Yep.
We interrupt you for a very important announcement. Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast has been brought to you by Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. That's right, Sean White is sponsoring his own podcast, and he wants to remind you to go check out some of his classes. You can go to SolarSEAN, that's Solar, SEAN.com, and then click on the links to check out his classes. You can check out his heat spring classes, and you can also hire him to teach classes for you, like at your company, something like that. Now back to the show.
So, what I've tried to do is nobody really was doing these things for these microgrids. And I tried to come up with, being an engineer, some sort of standard that's defensible, where the owner can then take it to their insurance company and say, look, here's what I'm doing, here's the basis for it, and help manage the risk and liability around that.
Yep.
So I just always try to look at what would they want to have, what would I want to have if I was the customer.
Yep. Wow. Well, you have some big wins back there in the Bahamas.
Yeah. I mean, there's not too many people doing what we do here. And there are 700 islands in the Bahamas. And I'm going to guess that somewhere between 100 and 150 of them make their own electricity and are not, not a utility company.
And is that one of those places where there's a different number of islands depending on low or high tide, probably?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, great.
The ones that aren't islands at high tide, you can buy.
That's what I can afford, I guess, right now.
Yeah. But interesting that you mentioned the history of your family in that area.
Yeah.
The fellow that I work with here in the Bahamas, his family came here in 1785.
Wow. Was he a pirate?
No, they were loyalists.
Oh, they were working for the crown, huh?
They were in the Carolinas, and they disagreed with the Revolutionary War. And the king said, come to the Bahamas, we'll give you land.
Oh, so they were in the original 13 colonies, and then they split to the Bahamas because of these rowdy, radical Ben Franklin types.
Exactly.
And
his family's been here ever since.
I was recently reading something about that where like there's the question is like, why didn't the Caribbean join the US as far as like, splitting off from England? And I guess the answer was, well, there was a lot of people that lived or like had plantations or whatever it was in the Caribbean that spent all their time in Britain and spent all their money in Britain. So they weren't ready to split off like these scrappy dudes out in the hills over on the mainland.
Yeah. Fortunately, a lot of that history is driven by the slave trade, which was mostly Britain, France, Portugal, and Spain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sucks. Yep.
It's a dark but unavoidable history of the region.
Yeah. Let's go back in time and change things. You ready? I'm going to push the reset button.
Yeah. With you.
All right. Bleep. All right. There we go. Did that fix it? I'm going to go look up on the internet and see if we fixed all the bad history of humanity with one press of a button.
So it's interesting working down here. The jobs get a lot of publicity. I just was working. We do a lot of work with Homer software.
Oh, okay.
For microgrid modeling.
Yeah, that was developed at the organization formerly known as NREL, I guess, at first.
Right. Yeah, I guess I've heard of them like that before. But yeah, the guy that developed that was his name, Peter Lilienthal.
Yeah, I remember running into him walking around the streets of Las Vegas, during a solar conference. So,
well, now it's basically snow skis all the time.
Oh, okay. Poor guy.
But it's great stuff. We use it all the time. I use it almost every day.
And did they have like a microgrid conference or something?
He used to. I don't think they do anymore. He sold the company to UL.
That's right. UL owns it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think they do any sort of outreach events like that anymore.
And so for UL and Homer and all that, are they staying up on like modifying the software and all that? I guess they must be if you're using it all the time.
Not really.
Oh, okay. But I guess you could just like enter your own inputs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's pretty easy to make it do what you want it to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing that I did that was kind of interesting recently is I was like, I experiment with the different AI companies. There's like, all these different companies that do it.
Oh yeah.
And one of them, I was like, make me a proposal for a system better than any other proposal company. And I said, there's this many kilowatt hours and this tilt angle. And I just threw in like some information in it. I was like, and just make up the rest. And it was kind of surprising how good it was. And it wasn't good enough, but give it a year, like it's growing so fast.
It is because I just chat GPT to do sort of the same thing, just an experiment. And it was like, in a couple of years, I'm going to be out of a job.
I know. Yeah, a lot of people are worried about that, but I think somebody's got to babysit the AI, so we're going to be AI babysitters. And
which one do you use? Which one do you favor?
I try them all. So I have a ChatGPT subscription, a Gemini subscription, and recently I've been looking into Claude a little bit more. And Claude does some kind of amazing stuff, but then it's got its problems too. So a lot of times I'll take the same prompt and I'll throw it into like 2 or 3 different AIs. And I've tried Grok also. And some, I have them make images and stuff. But like what I do one month and then the next month, what it couldn't do before, then it starts doing, and they have their own sensitivities. So like one of the problems with Claude is if I use the same chat, I guess you could say, and I get too much information in there, it just like, even though I have the paid version, it just says that's enough or you're done. Whereas with ChatGPT, I could just like have one thread and I could just like keep it going forever and it doesn't kick me off. And I've tried some other things too, because like recently my daughter was in the hospital, and so I like uploaded all the medical records and I said, you are the smartest doctor in the world. Tell me what you think of this. And I tried it with like all the different, AI companies to see what they would come up with. And it was pretty good. I think the doctors were probably tired of me doing stuff like that.
Did you get anything useful out of it?
Yeah, it came up with some interesting things that the doctors did say, oh, that is interesting. We're going to check on that, and it took a while to figure out what it actually was. And so It was just like lots of differential diagnosis exercises. They're, ruling things out and working diagnoses and all that. But it was like, I think it was helpful, but I'm pretty sure that these smart doctors for UCSF, they probably are doing it themselves. I think you get to a certain point where it would be like malpractice maybe someday without using every single tool that you could have. And it's not something that you're going to just rely upon and go like, this is correct, but it'll give you ideas that you might have otherwise overlooked and take you down a different pathway.
Yeah. Well, you be navigator.
Yeah.
The most basic requirement in the Coast Guard rules of the road, the COL regs, the regulations for avoidance of collision, says that a prudent navigator will take advantage of all sources of information that are possible.
But
kind of hard to hold the doctor's feet to the fire that way.
Yeah, I was reading also some articles about radiologists. And so AI apparently works really good for radiology, like x-rays and MRIs and CAT scans and stuff. And they were saying, there's not going to be any radiologists left. The AI is so good at it. And there's actually more radiologists, and they all use AI. So that could be just like kind of a look into the future, what we'll be seeing, because AI needs a babysitter. And so we have to go in there and go like, this is crazy. I mean, it hallucinates and things like that. And somebody has to make sure that we bring it to reality, Well,
it's good doctors are open to taking that sort of, I don't know, what you might call advice.
Yeah.
Or being open-minded about it rather than saying, no, I know everything there is to know about spinal surgery.
Yeah. Yeah. And I could see how like it might be irritating for solar professionals, surgeons, all different trades and professions, when you just have like some person that doesn't know anything about that profession and they punch it into AI and go like, this is what it is. And, yeah. So
did your background as a chiropractor, did that influence what you were thinking about those procedures?
Yeah, it definitely made me literate in everything to do with the spine. And, I knew all the terminology. They were like, how do you know this?
Yeah.
But then also, you have to think that they're the professionals. And like, I wasn't like, I don't know more than you, but I understood what they were talking about. I probably met with like over 100 doctors in the last month.
Dang. All at the same medical facility or different one?
Yeah, it was like 2.5 weeks. And
that's intense.
Yeah.
In addition to this podcast being brought to you by Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast, it is brought to you by water. Take a sip and just think, where would you be without water?
So where are you now? You're on the West Coast somewhere.
Yeah, I'm in the little town called Canyon. It's about 300 people, and it's less than a mile east of Oakland. Like, so you go to the Oakland Hills, and there's like Redwood Regional Park, and then down in the Redwoods is where I grew up. And so I know like all these people that live here. Like, if you knew somebody in this town, there's a good chance I know who they are. Like today, I went to the elementary school where lunch is $5 for anyone. And it's like, organic cooking by my friend Sierra. And I helped serve lunch, and I got to eat lunch, and it's in a redwood grove.
Sierra who?
Sierra Smith.
Oh. Because there's a gal. Oh, no, her name's Sequoia.
I know a Sequoia that works in the solar industry. Sequoia Cross. She's been on the podcast. Yeah. She's great.
Oh, yeah. She's a veteran.
Yeah, she's cool. Yep.
Well, I'm honored to be on the same podcast as Sequoia.
Yeah, I know. You better be. Yeah, she's smart, and yeah, I'm a fan. So yeah, there's the school, and then I took a guy, Mike Bishop. I don't know if you know who he is. OnGrid, do you know that software? Andy Black, all that. But he took over the OnGrid software from Andy, and he was like working for Andy Black. And so I brought him to Canyon, and we were looking at some solar projects. And he lives nearby in Oakland. Cool, laid back guy. He's actually another guy teaching a class over at the NABCEP conference. And I was like, I got a surprise for you. And I took him down to the school for lunch, and then we got to go be yard duties in the Redwood Grove because they needed.
So anyone walk in there and have lunch?
Yeah, so and we worked for it too. So we went down to the Redwood Grove and opened it up because there wasn't enough people for the kids to go play in the grove. which is the playground. Since my grandpa, he was the second graduate of the Canyon School. So, and speaking of like sailors, have you ever heard of Tom Wiley? He's a sailboat designer, maybe more of a West. Tom Wiley, but he's always eating lunch down here. He designed sailboats, but Wiley Cats. I don't know if you heard about Wiley Cat, but it's probably more of a West Coast sailboat. But he's well known in the sailing community out here, and I see him all the time too. And so, other sailors.
I have a sister who lives in Oakland. I used to go out there all the time for business.
Well,
but not anymore.
Well, you come check it out and build us a microgrid.
Oh, I think you have plenty of expertise out there. I just stick to my little island market.
Well, we got to get ready for the hurricanes due to climate change and all that. So,
yeah, I'm getting ready to start doing my hurricane season checkups on these islands.
So what's your plan? You have your sailboat with solar on it for the hurricane. If it comes to where you are and you're living on a sailboat, are you going to be tough and hang out in the sailboat, or are you going to just like go crawl in a hole somewhere?
This summer, I won't be here. I'm taking the boat up to New England.
Oh, okay. That's a good
plan. I have a couple of things to do between now and the end of May, and then I'm going to head north.
Okay. How long does it take you to sail to New England?
I guess you could probably do it in 5 or 6 days, but I'll probably maybe get up there in 2 months.
Oh, that's nice. And do you
back?
And so you're going with other people, I guess. It's kind of a big sailboat to single hand.
No, I single hand it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. Well, cool.
You hear the boats coming by. At the end of the day, the sun's going to set in about 20 minutes, and a lot of the boats are their music going.
All right, great. Okay. Well, great. Marc Lopata, the captain of a 52-foot island packet, who also is a PE, professional engineer, working on microgrids for secret famous people in the Bahamas and hooking people up with NABCEP training at the NABCEP conference on the education committee, I guess it was.
Yeah, I really love that. I really love people at NABCEP, and it's such a great audience. You know, you've been there. You know, people are there because they want to and they want to learn, and it's sort of like the highest echelon of performers in the solar industry.
Yeah, it's sort of like a reunion of all the technical solar people that happens every year. And
yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so we're like a tight group of people that, you know, a lot of people get to know each other pretty well after doing this for, you know, some of us decades. Right. So,
yeah. Great. Well, it was a pleasure to talk with you, Sean.
Yeah, you too, Mark. Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me. And getting to happy hour now, and I'm going to go pour myself a cocktail and enjoy it.
I'm jealous. Okay. I'm going to go make some more PVCMS practice exam questions. So.
Oh, you are actually actively doing that now?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of that. Yep. I have a guy that was begging me for it, who's in one of my classes, and yep. And so that's what I'm up to.
Do you know what else I use is NFPA? I think it's 705B. The standard for electrical equipment maintenance.
Okay.
Maintenance of electrical equipment. And probably get some good test questions.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And they'll do some bolt counting. Yeah. So, yeah, how long does it take you to count 100,000 bolts? No, I'm kidding.
Well, it takes, we have our O&M schedule has maybe 20 tasks, and it's an a la carte menu. And we can usually do the sample set for a megawatt in 3 or 4 hours.
Okay, great.
Let's say 3 hours a megawatt.
Well, the sun's about to set. You better get on it, huh? What's the sample set for your kilowatt PV system, or what was it, 1.5 kilowatt PV system on your sailboat?
That's it right there.
Okay, for those of you on YouTube, we can see a big sailboat with some PV on it and a dinghy, it looks like. Yeah.
Well, the dinghy's hanging underneath it.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting about this is figuring out where the failure point is. So if there's a really strong wind, I don't want that whole structure to get ripped off the deck. So the weak point is the attachment bolts of the modules to the frame.
So you design it so they fall off on purpose? Do you do that?
And so as the wind gets stronger, the first thing that's going to fail is the modules are going to get ripped off that structure.
instead of ripping off your boat and then making it not seaworthy when you're in the middle of the ocean.
Exactly.
So it's sort of like the kind of like a same principle as a fuse, like an engineered weak point.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So do you do anything like that for ground-mounted PV systems? Is that ever done on purpose, like a purposely made weak point?
There is not.
Mm-hmm.
If I was to, talk to the folks at Azimuth Consulting Services, Chris and Frank are the smartest structural guys I know in this industry. They would tell me that the weak point is where the modules are bolted to the racking.
Okay. And that's probably a good place for a weak point, I guess.
I mean, if it's got to have something, that's probably the best place for it.
Yeah, if the PV is going to fly away, it might as well leave the racks.
Might as well leave the racking.
And you could redo them. And then if it did fly away with the rack, then you'd have like a lot more stuff banging around that would be dangerous, perhaps. Right. I mean, you don't want anything to fly away, but...
No, but you always have to think about, the expression is you hope for the best and plan for the worst.
Yeah. And then it also gives you an excuse to save some money on bolts. You're like, if somebody's like, well, this is a cheap bolt. And it's like, no, that was done on purpose. We thought long and hard about that.
Counting on that bolt breaking in a hurricane.
Yeah. Quick release. All right.
Well, Sean, it was a pleasure talking with you.
Okay, and look out for those flying solar modules. Yeah, thanks a lot, Marc Lopata, and thanks for listening to Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. Check out SolarSEAN.com and make sure to get yourself NABCEP certified. And today I want you to get the NABCEP PV-CMS, that's the PV Commissioning and Maintenance Specialist Certification, SolarSEAN.com/PV-CMS. Sign up now, I dare you. Right, Mark? Good idea. Everybody should get NABCEP certified. And I'll see you in Mobile, and I'll see you in some hurricane. I'll probably be coming in, sailing in, solar modules flying off my boat.